so that you know that there hasn't been a shift in color when the document is open. You can convert it after the fact, but you want to be aware that it wasn't opened, it wasn't created in your working color space. So you can choose to have it ask you when opening. So if you open an image that wasn't in Adobe RGB, for instance, it would tell you that this image is not in Adobe RGB. Would you like to convert it or not? So you have that option right there to do that. If you hit more options, there's you have an engine. You want to use Adobe Ace as the engine. It's basically determines how it's going to convert the colors from one space to another. And then you have what mode. And to be honest, I don't remember exactly the differences between all the perceptual, saturation, relative. They have to do with if two colors, one color, let's say you have a blue in RGB, and you're converting this image to CMYK. Where does that point in blue convert to? Because there's
to which CMYK?
Right, what CMYK value? If that color doesn't exist, how is it going to convert it? One will shift like all the colors. I think that's either perceptual or relative, and to be honest, I forget which one. But relative is the general one you want to use. If you're having problems with your conversion, if you have an image that is shifting quite a bit from RGB to CMYK, you can try some of these different intents, and you'll get different results. You do want to use black point compensation on, unless you're having an issue with your blacks. If they're becoming too dark, or maybe not dark enough, you can uncheck use black point compensation, and I'll go over that in a second. Okay. And then use dither. Dither is important. That'll not prevent but help reduce banding in your image. I don't know if you've ever converted from RGB to CMYK, sometimes you'll get some banding, and a lot of times, especially in skies, you'll see it because blues sometimes have a hard time converting to CMYK. So the dither, what it does is it basically breaks it up into dots, like noise. And so instead of having bands of color, it's kind of broken up noise, and it makes more of a transition in there. So you definitely want to use dither on. Okay, we'll hit OK. So after that, I'm going to go into, if you are having problems converting, basically the color settings we just chose determine how the image will convert from one color space to another color space. When you go to image mode and you just change it to CMYK, that it uses those settings you have set up in your color settings. Now, if you're having problems with a particular image and it's not converting properly, you can go under edit, and then you can do convert to profile, and then you can change them on the fly. So I can change maybe the intent from relative to perceptual. You can see there's a little bit of a shift, subtle, but you can see it. See it in there.
Sorry, can you do it again?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So there is a difference. It does shift the colors differently depending on your intent. And then you can try to use black point compensation, which isn't having any effect here because there really is no black in here. It's very light. So or if, for instance, you know that you're gonna go to a sheet fed press for this one project, and you want to make sure you get the best quality out of it, you can go to you can change it here to the sheet fed, coded or uncoded. So it allows you to manually adjust these settings without having to change your color settings, permanently and forget to change them back. You can do it per image here using the convert to profile. Okay.
Can I ask probably a silly question?
Sure, go ahead.
Which under what color, like RGB, CMYK, should you color correct photos to make them?
Okay, yeah, we're gonna
okay.
go in that right now.
I'm a little antsy.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I know you said to work in Adobe RGB, so at what point do you get the option to save your web images in sRGB? Is that on the Save for Web screen?
It is on the Save for Web screen.
Okay.
You can do it there, or you can convert it beforehand.
Just I can see it in image mode as an option. Where it says RGB
Oh,
and CMYK.
no, but you can do it through the edit, convert to profile.
Okay.
Right there, you can scroll up. You have sRGB right here.
Okay.
And you can actually create that as an action to convert to sRGB, and then just run that action on all the images for the web project. Or if you know that you're going to spend this week on web projects, then it might make sense to actually change your color settings to sRGB then
For your working space.
for your working space, as long as you remember to change it back after the fact. But if you're going to, that's the key point. Yeah. So, but it would make sense if you're going to spend like a whole week on web work to just change it then, instead of having to convert all your images to sRGB. So,
Thanks.
but the opposition to that is if you're working on images that you know will be used for print and web, then you'd want to do the conversion. You'd want to work in Adobe RGB because you want to keep as much color in the image as possible when you're working, and save it with with the widest color gamut you can. That makes sense. You know, obviously the Pro Photo doesn't make sense, but the Adobe RGB would make sense to save them that way, and then convert it at the end when you're actually saving your EPS file or your JPEG file.
Okay.
So, and again, you could create actions and just run a batch on them.
Okay.
Did you say you want to do that? You want to convert before?
Those are destination spaces, the sRGB and the CMYK. So you'd want to do that at the very end of your process. So you would have a PSD file with all your layers and your adjustments and everything. You'd save your PSD file, then you would create an action that would flatten it and then convert it to sRGB or CMYK, and then save out that. So that'd be a different file. It'd be a JPEG file or an EPS file.
Okay.
So, it's the last process for it. So the differences between RGB, just generally between RGB and CMYK, is that RGB is an additive color space. That means to get white, you're adding color. So for instance, white is 255, 255, 255. That means you have 255 value of red, green, and blue. Whereas CMYK is subtractive. That means it's a lack of color creates white.